Hello, welcome to the Facebook Live. Tonight I've got a big announcement to make, and it's great to see Kate and Grace and Deirdre, Bronwyn, Tanya there already, and without further ado, I'm going to try something different tonight. I've never tried to do a PowerPoint presentation out of Facebook Live. I'm not sure anybody else has tried, so I've done a dummy run. It might work, but let's see how we go. So I'm going to go straight into what we're actually planning for the next step. I've been in hibernation the last 2 or 3 weeks from Facebook Live. Had a few problems with Facebook and LinkedIn, and things going missing, and people not too sure, that they want me to be talking about things like this. But anyway, here we are, and pretty excited about this announcement. So let's go back to the slideshow, and hopefully you can hear me all right. Just if you can't hear me when I switch to the slides, just tell me to speak louder, okay? Good to see Charles there, and Simone and Julie. Okay, here we go. So we're going to stage an event, guys, and you worked out what it is. Some of you might know, not very many. I've told 1 or 2 people, and there's Shelley and Rachel and Michelle. Here we go. We're going to stage a Fight Pharma Corruption Summit. And that's right, it's going to be big, and guess where we're going to stage it? I'm pretty excited about the venue. It's the Melbourne Town Hall on Remembrance Day, 11th of November 2016. Can you hear okay, guys, when I'm talking like this? Just put a tick or something on. Tell me if you can hear me okay. I'm guessing you can. So, Remembrance Day at the Melbourne Town Hall, thank you. We're going to have a mission statement on the day for Australian citizens need a federal independent commission against corruption. Now, we're not the only ones putting this forward. The reason I'm staging this at the Melbourne Town Hall with your help is because that need for a federal independent commission against corruption aligns with the Melbourne City Council's resolution in May 2000. So here we have an unusual situation that before the election back in May, our own council here in Melbourne, for those of you who live in Victoria, went out on a limb and said enough's enough. We counselling the federal government to lock in for an anti-corruption commission. So what a perfect venue, Melbourne Town Hall. But after I'd organised this, I've just found out a couple of days ago, guess what? We'll switch back to the slides and I'll tell you who else supports this. This is exciting. It's also supported by 79 Victorian municipal councils. That's unbelievable, and what a bonus. So they all resolved as part of this peak body called the Municipal Association of Victoria. Hello Elaine, and we've also got Anne, or 2 Annes actually. So the Municipal Association of Victoria, the State Council on 13th of May passed these resolutions. The first one was to support the establishment of an independent federal government agency with a specific mandate to investigate, expose and prosecute corruption in areas of public administration directly overseen by the federal government, including the conduct of federal members of parliament. So that's pretty amazing. that we've got such support from all the councils in Victoria. And all you people interstate, you want to be talking to your own councils and seeing where they're at on this topic, because it would be great if we could get all the councils around Australia agreeing to this same resolution. Now Victoria's led the way, and put a lot of pressure on the federal government, because they want to put a lot of pressure on the Labor Party in the building and construction industry, don't they? And so does the Labor Party want to put a lot of pressure on the banks, and now there's a little bit of pressure on our Senator Sam too. So there's a lot of corruption floating around, and unions as well on the front page today. So, although that's only alleged at this stage. Now, the second part of the resolution of the councils was to request for the president of that municipal association to write to all the leaders of the political parties requesting that they be informed of the various councils' opinions. So all of our leaders are aware of this resolution. So let's see if there's any leaders that might want to come and talk. In fact, I'll be inviting Minister Lay to see if she would like to come and talk at the summit. Now, what were the reasons that were given by the Melbourne City? Interesting. We flip back. How's the PowerPoint going, guys? Can you see it all right? Okay. Reasons given by the Melbourne City Council were to scrutinise federal politicians, and there they go. Look, the bombs are going off, and the likes. I love it. To scrutinise federal politicians and public servants. Or guess who works at the TGA? Guess who works at the NHMRC? Guess who works at Pharmaceutical Benefits Advisory Committee, etc., and who sits on all the committees. There's a lot of public servants that I wouldn't mind having some scrutiny at the moment. They also said it's untenable that the federal parliament should go on without one when the nation's 4 biggest states now all have corruption commissions. So it gives me another idea, just talking to you, that I haven't actually spoken to those 4 corruption commissions. They may not have power over the pharmaceutical industry. That'll be interesting, because I'll come to that in a minute. The other point that the council's raised in Victoria is, well, why are we under stricter rules in the federal parliament? Not a bad idea. I mean, that's the same moan I have about all the natural practitioners listening tonight. Why are you under much stronger mandatory codes of conduct than medical doctors who participated in all the committees to stitch you up in the first place, working in conjunction with a lot of federal public servants? Now, what are the take-home messages we're wanting from the summit? Now, the first one is obviously the mission statement. We need to get the whole population of Australia understanding, like the councils, the need for a federal independent commission against corruption. Maybe they just need to keep reading the papers. At least the mainstream media does report a lot of corruption at the moment, and that includes corruption of our companies overseas as well, with Leighton and other companies being exposed for foreign bribery. Well, and also I found out last week that there's a loophole according to the Australian Electoral Commission, whereby donations made by international companies, there's a loophole as to whether they can be scrutinised. And that was involved with the Julie Bishop matter. So I didn't know that before. So that's another area we've got to look at, is, are these political donations from some pharmaceutical companies ending up on a register? Maybe there's a loophole, and that's why I can't find them. Interesting. The second take-home message is we need to get with the world's best practice. We talk about it a lot, except when it comes to corruption. We want to be the worst country for corruption regulation. So it's a free-for-all in Australia at the moment. Nobody's addressing it in the pharmaceutical industry. I can't get anything out of any of our regulators as to who's putting their hand up. And that's why we've never seen a case run against the big farmers. The third take-home message at the summit is, oh, someone said to me, looks like you got shut down, no access. I hope that's not applying to all of you. The third take-home message is to learn from the US Justice Department and how it has succeeded often, frequently, the last 15 years or more, against Big Pharma. Many corruption cases settled favourably, and I'll be giving you one by one those histories for you in the lead up to this summit in about 10 weeks' time. Now, the fourth point from the take-home messages is the lessons from international whistleblowers. And I've been in touch with a number of them, and I've got some exciting news to tell you, but not tonight. Let's just make sure we get a little bit further along the track, but there are some big names going to be participating, and I'm pretty sure we'll land some more. These are the hard-nosed whistleblowers. Some of them done 10, 11 years fighting cases with the US Department of Justice against Big Pharma, going to talk to you at the summit and educate us as to what we need to do to get with it. Very exciting possibilities. And finally, the final message will be the actual action steps for Australians to take in fighting pharmaceutical corruption, down to the single individual, to associations, to practitioners, to you name it. We can all do our bit. What slideshow? Let's flip back to that. Well, actually, I'll go back to the 5 take-home messages there from the summit. You can have a quick look at that, and then that'll also be in the replay. How can we catch up on world's best practice? Well, we can look at what happened in the UK Anti-Corruption Summit 2016 that Minister Dutton attended, and Australia actually signed a manifesto at that summit, which is quite detailed, except for one glaring omission from Minister Dutton. We didn't sign up to anything to do with pharmaceutical companies. They weren't even mentioned. So they've got a big hold over our federal government, I can tell you. I was excited about a week and a half ago. I've got a post I'll put up very soon. In fact, maybe I'll focus on that in the next day or so. The Cochrane reviews I've been talking about have actually reviewed the evidence to support establishing an anti-corruption commission, and the evidence is strong, or favourable at least, that it makes a difference. So it's great to have Cochrane evidence supporting you, which the bulk of mainstream medicine of course does not, but they don't want to tell you. The fourth one, international legislative reforms, will focus on whistleblower reforms and also similar clauses to the False Claims Act that the bulk of the actions are taken in the US to make sure we've got the right legislation for the new regulators. And that's because that 5th point there, federal agencies claiming insufficient powers. I've spoken to the TGA, I've spoken to the Attorney General's Department, I've spoken to ASIC. There's very, very little ability for these federal agencies and also the ACCC to take our pharmaceutical industry on. In fact, the Medicines Australia was set up to almost exclude the ACCC from taking any action. That's another story in itself. We're going to focus on the USA's Justice Department successes, looking at their legislative framework, the individual case studies, what corrupt activities were actually pursued in the US, likelihood they're happening here, and the role of whistleblowers and the fact that they do get financial incentives. Now, to give you an example, Risperdal, that I went on a bit of a private hobby horse after my mother was put in a wheelchair with this dementia-banned drug because it kills people a year ago. That Risperdal case ended up in about $3 billion of fines in the US, and 5 whistleblowers shared $128 million. It was a lot of money. They all got about, around about, I thought it was around about 28 million each. The Paxil case, there were 4 whistleblowers from Glaxo, all got 60 million each, so they can share up to 25% of the pot, although it's not a definite, it's a negotiated thing at the end of the case, which puts the whistleblowers through even more torture after helping out for such a long period of time and losing their careers inevitably once they speak out. Who's going to talk at the summit? Okay, that's pretty important. Feel free to nominate people you'd like. Now, even if they can't come to Australia, I could be doing live Facebooks with them. We could have them on the big screen at the Melbourne Town Hall. We'll find a way to have them on the screen. If you want someone, you tell me, right? What I've got here is examples of people I've invited already and I've had success already. Some names, but there'll be a case study from a big pharma drug for the elderly. No prizes for guessing. I want a Risperdal person there. A big pharma drug for teenagers, highly likely to be Paxil. One of the whistleblowers there has agreed to come. The big pharma drug for children case study, and that's a big name, has agreed to come. There's a reformed corporate executive. So one of the guys that was actually caught in corruption has been crusading all around the world ever since. He's reformed and he's told people how he did his corruption, and now he's working for a lot of major companies to make sure that their practices are as tight as possible. So I'm trying to nail him. And finally, the big area that I think has been ignored is the fact that scientists are corrupt, and very corrupt, because you have major editorial journal people many of them, at least 3 or 4, I've seen articles written, including the editor of The Lancet, say that half or a majority of their scientific journal articles are based on false science. So that's pretty concerning. If we can know what of them become, that would be awesome. Action steps to fight pharma corruption. Leading up, number 1 here, sign petition. I just found out that the federal government has its own legislation enabling you and I to mount a petition, and we can then get to present in the federal parliament to the petitions committee made up of House of Representatives that we've elected. Unbelievable. I've never known about that. I apologise. So social media's out. You have to do it the old-fashioned way. I've put my suit and tie on the old-fashioned way of going to work, and we're going to have a big sign petition happening, council by council, natural practitioner by natural practitioner, medical doctor by medical doctor. I don't care who gets involved in this. We're all in this together. If we can get all the patients to sign the petition, present it to the federal parliament, I'm hoping we can get 1 million names on that petition by the time we get to the summit. And then that's a lot of pressure. We can all play our part. It's a significant step ignored in federal democracy, to my knowledge, but I never heard of it. So I don't think too many people are doing it. Anyway, the second point I've got up there is flipping back to the PowerPoint, the world's best practice legislation and whistleblower protection and incentives, whistleblower hotline for anonymous leads, and I will coordinate that through my new entity, whistleblowersunite.com. The website will be up soon, and we want to align our regulators, or anybody really, with the US Justice Department. It might be our whistleblower hotline. But I hope there's a regulator in Australia that wants to align with the US Justice Department. I don't think anyone is at the moment. And down the bottom, number 5 is an absolute massive potential, is involving these US whistleblowers that agreed to participate and invite some of their fellow whistleblowers to help us to form an advisory panel of international whistleblowers. I'm hoping to get at least 100 on this panel that have done the hard yards and be helping people in Australia have the courage to be brave and be bold and stand up and speak their mind and not fear the consequences, and have obviously state-of-the-art legislation to support them. So they're the big action steps. What can you do next, yourself? I think the key thing is volunteer to do something. I don't care what you do, just do something, as John Kennedy said to the Hawthorn footy team back in the 80s. And I'm hoping they don't win the 4th premiership this year and knock off my team Sydney. But anyway, so you can volunteer to do something. You can invite one of your friends or patients to volunteer to do something. What help do we need? We need a lot of help, right? I have done a lot of conferences in my heyday. I do know how to do them. I even had a big hand in launching the Spring Racing Carnival in my horse racing days. Venture capital, been around the world with venture capital conferences, but I'm a bit rusty. So if you've got help with event management, that's great. PA work, could be on-site, could be in your home, it could be fundraising on my GoFundMe site, it could be creating new GoFundMes, it could be other forms of fundraising, it could be you could be a petition coordinator in your postcode. So I'll be seeking one person in each postcode to be the coordinator. You can then coordinate with the local council, the local shopping centres, the local practitioners and their patients. So that would be a good way of you participating and get these petitions signed. Got to be physically signed with a pen. You could be writing a short post or doing a draft for me, breaking the background if you're scared to write this stuff up and be attacked by APRA or Friends of Science in Medicine or skeptics or whoever thinks that there's no corruption in Australia by the pharmaceutical industry. So I want you to focus on the actual cases that have been won in the US, and we write them up and we can show everybody what's happened. So I can't do them all, but with your help we can. The next area is legal eagles out there that have been very quiet. I've got 200 on my LinkedIn, but none of you ever talk to me, and you're scared. You're all working for Slater and Gordon and Shine and all this sort of stuff. There's a big business coming up here, so the first law firm that wants to sort of get involved with me, I'll remember that, right? And finally, social media guru managers, right? I'm getting censored left, right and centre. I need people that understand how to work the social media game. I need the basics. We need to attack all forms of social media. on every level. And then we need obviously marketing people for brochures, participating in any conferences coming up, maybe medical conferences, maybe natural practitioner conferences, having booths there, manning booths, whatever. So you think of what else you've been to conferences, what actually works in getting people there. We can have 2,000 people in the Melbourne Town Hall. I haven't set a price yet. I want a panel of people to help me at the top level. There's a two-tier at the Melbourne Town Hall. If you can visualise it, there's 1,100 downstairs. It's a fabulous building. I had a demonstration the other day. I'd never been upstairs. Upstairs is 790 odd seats. I'd love those to be people on welfare, disabled people, people on social welfare, people can't afford to come, but people are probably on a hell of a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, and that might be also causing some of their disabilities. So, you know, I'm hoping we have free admittance for at least 700 or 800, we get paid tickets for 1,100, and we all join together and we make this something special, and we grow from there. So I'll flip back to the final step. That is to sign up on www.fightpharmacorruption.com, request a petition for you or your patients to sign, indicate whether you're interested in volunteering or attending, or you can email me at glittle@fightpharmacorruption.com, or if you want to phone me 0402 904749, I will endeavour to get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you for listening, and this is a very important step, and I'm praying that it will be a catalyst to bring people together and unite all those that want to be bold, want to be brave, had victims of pharmaceutical corruption, had adverse events with no reporting. Whatever your particular situation or concern, this is the time to come forward and make this something special. If you want to be anonymous, that's okay. I understand your help's still valued at an anonymous level. So bye for now. I will be back big time on Facebook Live unless they shut me down. But if that happens, I'll find another way through one of your Facebook sites or whatever. We'll keep them guessing because we need to fight pharma corruption. Bye for now. Graham Little, knee Peter Boat, signing off.